Explore Ontario life in the 1920s and 1930s in this two-part series on Biblioway KW. The 1920s brought electricity and automobiles, changing daily life and creating new jobs while older trades faded. Roads expanded and weekend spots like dance pavilions became popular. The 1930s then hit with the Great Depression, bringing unemployment and poverty. Communities relied on creativity, shared resources, and early government support to get through tough times. Despite hardship, social life stayed strong. Church choirs, barbershops, and dance halls kept people connected. Women's roles began to shift. Parenting styles changed, and every town had memorable local characters. Hit like and subscribe to join Part 1.
Okay, let's unpack this. We are opening up a remarkable window into history today. We're taking a deep dive into W.J.D. McAlister's memoir, Memories, growing up between two wars.
It's just such a crucial source for this era. McAlister captures those critical 21 years between the 1918 armistice and the start of World War II in 1939.
Right. It's a period we often gloss over, but it's that moment when the agrarian past finally collided with the industrialized future.
Exactly.
So our mission here is to take his firsthand account and use it as a map, really, to understand life in these small Ontario towns and rural communities.
And, think about what's packed into those 2 decades.
Everything. The Great Depression, the arrival of electricity, the family car, a completely different way of life on Main Street.
What's fascinating here is the incredible speed of change. You have this dizzying modernization, the car, the radio happening against a backdrop of really deep 19th century traditions.
And the memoir just captures that friction perfectly.
It really does. It's a direct comparison between what people call the old ways and this relentless push of progress.
And he didn't just document the big themes, he got the texture of daily life. School days, boarding house life.
Oh, yeah.
And even things like the big bands playing at the dance halls in Port Stanley.
It wasn't just about survival. It was about living through a total transformation.
So let's start where the community gathered, Main Street. McAlister notes that the physical street itself tells a story.
The layers of history.
Exactly. When they started digging the Yonge Street subway, for example, they found road built upon older road, plank walkways from the 19th century.
That physical evolution from, like, a dirt strip with wooden planks to paved sidewalks and asphalt was fundamental. It was a sign that a town felt like it had really arrived.
And the businesses on that street were institutions. He mentions landmarks in towns like Strathroy. You had the Queen's Barbershop.
Which is so interesting because that's where women started going to get their bobbed haircut. A huge social shift right there.
A massive one. Then you had Evoy's department store and Stepler's drugstore.
And that drugstore detail is perfect because it shows you how specialized things were. Stepler sold almost entirely medical supplies.
Right.
You went there for medicine, period. It wasn't the convenient superstore we have now, selling groceries and garden hoses.
And it was the same in Exeter, competing department stores. And then you had the social spots like Harvey's Ice Cream Parlor.
Which brings us to the whole culture of commerce. It was just completely different. We live in a 247 world.
Right.
But back then, the rhythm was strict. Saturday night was the shopping time.
Because everyone had just finished a 60-hour work week.
A grueling 6-day week, yeah. And Wednesday afternoon, everything shut down. Sunday, forget it. Nothing was open.
Even the trains stopped running on Sundays.
Right. Commerce just stopped. It created this mandatory downtime, a totally different pace of life.
And the shopping itself was so personal. It was all built on trust.
Absolutely. Before self-serve, you sat on a stool at the counter. The clerk wasn't some temporary employee. They were a fixture. They knew your family.
They knew your needs. They gave you advice.
And they'd set things aside for you. A new shipment of something comes in, and the clerk remembers your grandmother loves it and puts a package away for her.
That is the complete opposite of modern retail. You really relied on their integrity.
And you saw that integrity in the little things, like the good measure. McAlister describes the dry goods clerk measuring cloth from her hand to her nose.
Using her arm as a yardstick?
Yes, and then this is the crucial part. She would pull out a few extra inches.
Just to be sure.
Just to be sure, she gave the customer good measure. It was a point of pride.
And thinking about Main Street, there were sites that were just totally commonplace then that are museum pieces now, like hitching posts.
Hitching posts were everywhere. Some plain, some with these fancy cast iron horse heads on top.
But where you have horses, you have, well, a mess.
A huge mess. And this highlights the lack of municipal services. There was no sanitation department. The cleanup was done maybe once a year.
By a local farmer.
Yeah, a farmer would volunteer to haul it all away, just out of, community spirit.
What a lovely annual tradition. This was also really the end of the line for a lot of specialized craftsmen.
Oh, absolutely. The tailor, for instance.
Yeah.
A working man might only own 3 or 4 blue serge suits in his whole life, so that suit was an investment.
It had to be hand-stitched, it had to last.
But then ready-to-wear clothing got better, and the tailor's role just shrank. And the harness maker, too.
Yeah.
Maurice Quancy was still stitching heavy harness for farm horses.
But Bill Beer, the other harness maker, he's a perfect symbol of that change.
He is. He saw what was coming. He didn't just stick to leather. He started vulcanizing tires and, even more amazing, building early radios. He adapted.
And his trade was declining for one big reason: the family automobile.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the car didn't just appear. It took a few key things coming together at once.
First, Henry Ford made the Model T affordable for the masses.
Right. And second, you get time payment plans.
Yeah.
So a regular wage earner could actually budget for one. It was the start of modern consumer credit, really.
So you could finally afford it. But driving was not the easy year-round thing it is today.
Well, not at all. Before snowplows, you literally put the car away for the winter. It was a seasonal vehicle.
And the roads, the infrastructure just wasn't there.
It was non-existent. Rural road building was the farmer's job. They had to haul the gravel themselves, take turns with their horse teams pulling the road scraper.
So the mobility revolution was built on the backs of the farmers it was supposed to be helping.
In a way, yes. But despite all that, the Model T became this incredible cultural fixture. It was the family touring car, the local taxi.
The Playboy's runabout, and even a power source on the farm.
You could hook it up to sawwood or pump water. But technology was moving so fast. Soon you had closed sedans, balloon tires for a better ride, and then hydraulic brakes.
Chrysler introduced them in 1925, right?
Yeah. Initially just on the front wheels, yeah.
Yeah.
And the pace of innovation was so fast, it actually led to some pretty weird regulations.
Red triangle.
Exactly. When four-wheel brakes became standard around 1928, the government made you fix a little red triangle to the back of your car.
And the reason is just fantastic. It wasn't for you, it was for the person behind you.
Right. The government was worried these new cars stopped so much faster than the old ones that they'd cause rear-end collisions. It shows you a time when stopping power was seen as a new kind of danger.
And the road trips people took, they were legendary. The best story in the memoir is that 1925 trip to Toronto.
Oh, the Buick Light 6-1.
Yes. McAlister's father loads 7 people, mother, 3 kids, both grandparents, and a spare driver into this car.
7 people.
They drove over 100 miles to the Toronto exhibition, spent the whole day there, and drove back. The whole trip took 22 hours.
I mean, can you imagine the endurance? This rough roads, no real maps, that kind of trip instantly made them the talk of the town.
100 miles was like crossing a continent. But not everyone was on board. You can contrast that epic journey with the story of Angus, the retired farmer.
Right. He buys a car, drives it 1 mile from home on the first trip.
Gets stuck in the mud.
Tows it back with his horses, pushes it into the garage, and that's it. It just stays there.
25 years later, an auctioneer finds the car, still under a sheet, with only 3 miles on the odometer.
Just 3 miles. To him, the car wasn't freedom. It was this unreliable machine that failed him once, and that was enough.
Speaking of freedom, that brings us to the next great liberator, electricity. Heralded in Ontario by Sir Adam Beck as the servant of man.
And it really was. I mean, it immediately started chipping away at the hardest domestic jobs. Think about laundry day.
Oh, it was just brutal before the electric washer, an absolute marathon.
You'd soak clothes overnight in a copper boiler, shave slivers of Sunlight soap into the water, boil the clothes, and then you were the engine. You had to rock the agitator by hand for 20 or 30 minutes straight.
So even just a 3-pound electric iron was a massive relief. It replaced those heavy flat irons you had to keep heating on the stove.
And before the electric fridge, the Iceman was a fixture. He'd come around in his covered wagon with these big tongs.
And all the neighborhood kids would follow him around hoping for tips of ice.
Of course. And the electric fridge was such a revolution that its brand name became the generic name. You didn't say you needed a refrigerator.
You said you needed a Frigidaire.
A Frigidaire, exactly. Even if it was a Westinghouse or a Kelvinator.
But the single biggest social change from electricity wasn't the fridge. It was what replaced the wood stove.
Absolutely. The black wood stove, the happy thought, the good cheer, that was the literal and emotional heart of the home.
It did everything. It was the heat for the house, the cooking surface.
It was where your dad rested on the couch nearby where the dog slept, and, crucially, where the children did their homework around the kitchen table.
The housewife was an engineer, regulating that heat perfectly with different kinds of wood. So when the clean, efficient electric stove came in, it completely broke up that central family hub.
Precisely. You didn't need that constant heat source in the kitchen anymore, so you needed central heating. And the result was this: social fragmentation. Kids did their homework in their own heated bedrooms.
Family life decentralized.
It did. The family gathering around the warm stove was replaced by the family gathering around the lazy boy in the rec room. Comfortable, maybe, but dispersed.
Which brings us neatly to education. That was also under huge pressure after World War I. The economy was shifting from farming to industry, and you needed more schooling.
And the system was very tiered. In a village, you went to a continuation school for grades 9 to 12.
But that wasn't enough for university.
No. For the upper school certificate, you had to commute to a city collegiate institute for grade 13. And that meant incredible sacrifice for families.
Right. McAlister talks about families scrimping and saving using their butter and egg money from the farm.
Just to pay tuition, so a daughter could go to normal school teacher's college or nursing school. That was often the first step into a profession.
And just getting into high school sounds terrifying. The entrance exam was this 3-day traumatic ritual.
It was high stakes, held in a strange town, judged by external teachers. Students wore their Sunday best, and their success or failure directly reflected on their teacher's academic rating.
Wow. And once you're in, the environment was, well, autocratic.
Completely. Male teachers wore the same blue serge suit every day. It was their uniform. And lady teachers wore very somber colors. And get this, no makeup was allowed for female teachers.
No makeup? Why on earth not?
The official reason was, quote, to prevent senior boys from being distracted.
Unbelievable. The burden was all on the teacher.
Entirely. And discipline was ruthless. You could be expelled for smoking, using cosmetics, or just being labeled an idler.
And while all this was happening in the towns out on the farm, modernization was also speeding up. The small tractor, the grain combine.
Yes. The horses were slowly being phased out. But despite the machinery, those core rural values held strong. McAlister really stresses that a handshake was a binding contract. My word is my bond.
But there was a bit of a double standard for outsiders, wasn't there?
Oh, absolutely. Honesty inside the community was paramount. But with a traveling salesman or a broker, it was definitely buyer beware.
So you get all these stories of, hiding the small potatoes in the middle of the bag.
Exactly. Or outwitting a gypsy horse trader. It was part of the folklore. And humor was so central to that identity.
Like the story of Harvey the Farmer.
Yes. Harvey, who smelled so strongly a skunk after shooting at chicken thieves, he had to be exiled to the barn for the night. Those stories held the community together.
So if we pull back, these 21 years were really defined by this relentless, difficult choice between the old ways and new conveniences.
It was a true tug of war. Autos and electricity were changing everything, but they were clashing with these deep social habits. The trust-based commerce, the centralized family. This is really when the small farm and the unique artisan community began their long fade into history.
This memoir is just such a gift because it does exactly what he wanted. It makes the stories told by grandfather a little more realistic. It gives you the context for all that family lore.
It grounds the whole experience.
Yeah.
Which, it makes you ask a really important question about what came next.
McAlister made this really pointed observation near the end of his memoir. He noted that the older gentlemen no longer gathered under the maple trees to spin yarns, and that fewer people just stopped to talk to each other on Main Street. So if progress gave us this unparalleled speed and mobility, what essential, slow, face-to-face community knowledge did we sacrifice along the way? We encourage you to ask your own family members about that time before easy mobility changed absolutely everything.
Thanks for watching Part 1. If you liked it, please like and subscribe to biblioway_KW right now. We'll see you in Part 2 for the rest of the story.